Hi, I'm Cynthia Schiller. Please like and subscribe. We're going to talk about EMDR. Have you guys ever heard about that? If not, comment below. Because learning is how we're going to heal. So this I'm not necessarily endorsing, but I'm getting the information out there. I haven't tried it, but it has a very high success rate according to studies that I've seen. How our brain recovers from trauma. There are different types of therapies available. This is one you might want to possibly consider or look more into. But it's good to get all the knowledge that we can because this helps deal with traumatic events. I'll screen share some slides in just a minute. But during our typical day, our brain is constantly doing two different things. We're, taking in sensory information based on our five senses, such as smell, taste, touch, what we hear, what we see. And at the same time, a different part of our brain kind of creates a story out of all this sensory information that we're taking in. So I want to share my screen to kind of go a little bit better into it. So here we go. Here's a brain's image of on the left right here. This shows an overactive brain activity from a client who had PTSD, post-traumatic stress. And that's similar to what we have, complex post-traumatic stress disorder that you could possibly have due to a narcissistic relationship or an abusive relationship. That's where it happens not just one time, it's over a long period of time. But if you look on the right, you can see that the scan shows the activity after this EMDR treatment. And the things that it helps with is post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, if you suffer from depression or panic attacks, fear of being alone, lack of motivation, which is kind of tied into depression, feelings of despair. So if you guys are struggling with any of this, or know somebody who has, it's just something to look into and be knowledgeable about. Also, if you deal with, let me share this a little bigger. If you deal with anger, lack of trust. So we've been screwed over by our narcissists. And it's hard to trust people because we were so blindsided. We were so fooled. Also, memories of traumatic experiences. Some of you guys get flashbacks or nightmares. Depends on the type of abuse, how escalated it got. Some narcissists, they just drop you and you're like, wait, what? Others, they abuse and abuse and abuse. And also interpersonal behaviors, how we're reacting to people. Are we doing things the right way? So they have this 12 key rehab program, which offers this type of EMDR for clients who have experienced emotional trauma or they feel overwhelmed because of a specific event. And these events, this is the thing, they usually remain underlying unresolved emotional issues. And they're often displayed through these symptoms that I just mentioned. So before I explain what this is, but let's see how does the brain form a memory? Because some of our narcissists confabulate where they make up scenarios. They don't really have a true memory to pull from all the time. So they make up stories. They make up what they believe is the truth sometimes. That's why they get even more frustrated. Sometimes they're flat out lies. Other times they truly believe their lies. So if we're going to talk about how do we remember the places that we go, this one is an example of the Taj Mahal. They're talking about the throngs of people, the white marble, chattering of the crowd, all these things we're taking in, the touch of the marble. So all these details are associated with this visit, and they involve pretty much all our senses. How is that memory made? What makes our memories made? Looking back at your childhood, you don't remember everything. You remember key events, certain scenarios. So neuroscience is this complex process that scientists are still trying to understand. It's hard to process exactly what's going on, but this is the parts of your brain. Up here is your cerebral cortex, the prefrontal cortex. This is the amygdala. This is where the narcissist has their amygdala shrunk. So they don't have as much. This is where the empathy lies. You got your hippocampus. So our brains make our memories when there's certain connections between brain cells, and these cells are called neurons. And as time goes on, they start to strengthen. Now, the narcissist, when they were growing up, something traumatic was happening to them. It was probably prolonged, and those connections weakened or died. If they're 100%, gone. You got your psychopaths who have no empathy, and the narcissists. They might have some of these neurons still working, but not to full capacity. So, based on the different types of senses that we use, um, our brain stores these things such as touch, smell, sound in different places of the brain. And it sends these pieces of information to the cortex. So as these brain cells send more signals to each other, electrical impulses, the connections strengthen even more. So that's why when we're in these relationships, we're deepening. We are deepening, but the narcissists, they don't have those connections. So it's unstable. It's not deepening, it's a facade. And, you know, um, through the neurotransmitters, those are the chemical messengers between the neurons that attach themselves to the neighboring cells. So these electrical signals are received by the portion of the brain, just little tips of them called dendrites. And here you can see what it looks like with the neuron and the dendrite right at the tip. And so this information then is put together in the hippocampus, which is right down here. And it's kind of like the CEO of the brain. So you got your cortex, your hippocampus. These are what's deciding which memories are important and which ones we should store, which ones we should get rid of, because we can't remember everything. So we're getting rid of the minute details. That's why a lot of times as time goes by, we lose portions of our recollection. So it's getting rid of certain things. Sometimes you can delve deep through hypnosis. But while making these emotional memories, the amygdala, this is what I want you to hear, this amygdala also works with the cortex and the hippocampus. We have to remember that because that's a damaged part of our narcissist. And we got to be careful too, because they're damaging our brain as well in our amygdala. So what is this EMDR? So as we sleep, our brain starts to sort through all these events that we went through. And there's two parts to this. They have the sensory data plus the meaning that we put into it. And that goes into our long-term memory. Kind of like two halves of a book might be closed together before the book can be completely put away. So you got two different portions of the story, and we're putting it together and sealing it in a memory. We're filing it away. So something happens differently when we go through an event that is overwhelming, traumatic to us, and it's outside of our true ability to cope through it. So these traumatic events that we go through, our brain does this amazing thing, and it does it to protect us from the pain of what's happening. And I told you guys about when I was a burn victim, my brain completely shut that out. It was too traumatic. But some of these things we survive, we don't shut down. I was only 5 years old when it happened too. But our brain kind of like checks out sometimes the sensory information of what was joined within the story. It's not a complete memory. It wasn't processed fully, and it wasn't stored in the long-term memory. So flashbacks, these are these thoughts that just kind of are intrusive. Nightmares, it's kind of like that open book lying on the floor of our mind, and we keep tripping over it, and we're trying to find a way to close it and file it away. So we're living in the trauma. We're not filing it away. It keeps popping up and popping up. That's why you guys can have a great day. All of a sudden something happens, you're tripping over that book. So feels like you're going through it in present time. Even if the breakup or the abuse was years ago, it feels current. So um we're not able to fully understand. That's why we go through that denial, the cognitive dissonance. Second thing can also occur with these traumatic events that we go through. We learn a false narrative about it. Um, a lot of times survivors try to internalize this lesson. We tend to reflect it on ourselves that everything was our fault or we're bad, um, embarrassed, even if it's not our fault. Something happened to us. We were abused, because we pull little things like I shouted one time, or I stood my ground one time. Should I have done that? Um, so we start to feel bad, and our mind plays tricks on us sometimes. So in order to heal, when we have memories that are unhealthy, we have to do two things. So first, we have to desensitize ourselves to these memories. We keep ruminating, we keep bringing them up. Sometimes they surface on their own. Sometimes it's almost like we're bored and don't know what to think about. So our minds just go back to it. Sometimes we're triggered. We hear a certain song on the radio. So we have to desensitize ourselves. We need to reprocess these things in a healthy way. Um, and when we do this, information from our memory is finally paired with a healthy story of what happened. So sometimes we compare that with, I moved on, I got my life together, I'm happy, I don't need the abuse. It's finally closed. We need closure, and we're not getting it from our narcissist. That's what makes it so difficult, is a lot of times narcissists don't give us closure, and if they give us closure, it's half-assed. We don't know if it's the truth. And so by desensitizing and reprocessing memories, that's what this is all about. Research that I've seen, it doesn't mean it's all inclusive, but the research reprocesses these memories by alternating between the right and left sides of the brain. And they do this by moving the eyes left to right. So if you guys are researching this, you should probably have, if you do it, have somebody like a therapist help you through it. But when we sleep, we have that rapid eye movement. We have to have it. It's when we process things. It's essential to our lives to be able to do that. That rapid eye movement when we're dreaming. So another way is to tap on the left and then the right sides of the body, our right hand sides. So right hand side, whether it's your hands or your knees, and you know, then do the left and the right, alternate it. It's stimulating the different sides of our brains. So EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And it uses these techniques. So in the beginning, it was developed for trauma, but they are starting to see that it can be useful for people who are stuck in issues such as depression, certain phobias, body image, um, anxiety. And a lot of us have gone through, depression or anxiety. Now we're starting to be scared of certain things that might be triggers now. Body image, maybe we might struggle with that because sometimes our narcissist was pretty harsh on us about our body or our weight, our faces or our hair, the clothes we wear. So to begin this treatment, there's certain tools and techniques that will empower the person seeking therapy to manage their arousal. So when we're going through these traumatic experiences, from the past, living in the present, these keep surfacing and they keep staying with us, even though it happened in the past. Possibly you're still going through it. We got to process these past memories um, at a certain cadence, a certain pace that is where it feels safe, because they bring up these traumatic events. Uh, so they don't want you, the goal is being able to recall instead of relive these memories. So it's kind of softening what is coming to surface. Um, and I like this statement, to merely have memories rather than feeling like the memories have you, because we are getting caught up to where the memories are starting to control our lives. We're so sad that our memories of a fake relationship, somebody who screwed us over, is affecting our lives. So it's taking it over, and we got to take our power back. So, this eye movement desensitization reprocessing, that's psychotherapy. And it helps people heal from these symptoms of distress that are extremely emotional, that were caused by these terrible things that we went through in life. So they've used these studies repeatedly that there are benefits that have been seen, that once it took years to see a change in how people were reacting and feeling, to much shorter periods of time. So this therapy shows us that the mind can, in fact, heal from the psychological trauma, similar to how our bodies heal from physical trauma. So our brain's processing system moves toward mental health. Our bodies want to protect us. And if this system is blocked or imbalanced, um, it, it can cause a lot of suffering. So once the block, the the blockage towards healing is removed, we can start moving towards a healthy lifestyle, a healthy mental attitude, and get our lives back on track. So these clinicians, they help activate this natural healing process, because they're kind of stuck. So this study, there's been more than 30 positive controlled outcomes, and they show almost 84 to 90% of single trauma victims, almost all of them no longer have post-traumatic stress disorder. So those are single trauma. And that was after only 3.5-hour sessions. So there's another study that HMO Kaiser Permanente did, and they saw 100%. So we had to, realize that I don't have all the information on how large these studies were, what the traumatic events were, so use caution when you do more in-depth research if you're interested in it. So multiple trauma victims no longer were diagnosed with PTSD after only 6 50-minute sessions. So multiple trauma victims at CPTSD. So they saw 77% didn't have symptoms. 77% of veterans who were in combat were free from PTSD in 12 sessions. So about 3/4 of them. So there's been a lot of research that's been done. It's actually recognized now as an effective treatment for trauma and other experiences that cause disturbances. And that is recognized by organizations such as American Psychiatric Association. They also have been recognized by the World Health Organization, Department of Defense. So it has worldwide recognition, seeing it as an effective treatment. This is just something I'm bringing forward to you. You can do more research because I don't know enough about it to endorse it, but it is intriguing. And we do struggle. It cuts down the time if it is effective. Um, so what it's, uh, you know, millions of people have been treated successfully over the past 25 years. And worldwide, there's over 100,000 clinicians around the world that use this type of therapy. So EMDR uses 8 phases. So eye movements or other bilateral stimulation is part of a portion of the session. So the clinician, what they do is they determine which memory to target first. So that's why it's important to utilize somebody who knows what they're talking about. They'll ask the client to hold different aspects of that event in their mind and use their eyes to track the therapist's hands as it's moving back and forth within the client's vision. So it's interesting that as this happens, there's one researcher over in Harvard that believed that it was connected within the biological mechanisms involved in this REM sleep, the rapid eye movement. And it has internal associations that surface. The client will start to process their memories, will process the feelings that disrupt them and disturb them. So when it's successful, the meaning of these painful events is changed. It's transformed on the emotional level. So this is like a good example, like a rape victim. Instead of saying that they're a victim, they will say, I survived. I'm a survivor. So it's a change in the thought process where they're, proud and strong that they survived, as opposed to I'm a victim and how could somebody do this to me? It's a mental change. And we have to do that too, though, as we're trying to heal, that we rewire our brain, you know, instead of making excuses, that we can be thankful that we're not instead of being sad we're not in a relationship with our narcissist. We can be thankful that we can have a healthier life. It's a change in thinking. So this is different. The therapy that we're talking about is different than talk therapy. The insights clients gain in this EMDR therapy are not so much from the clinician's interpretation, because in talk therapy, the clinician is interpreting things, but it comes from within the client. Like healing comes from within. So we have to remember that when we get really sad that we didn't get closure from our narcissist, we have to give ourselves closure. We have to accept the things that we can't control. So the net effect is that, at the end of this therapy, that there's feelings of empowerment, and these feelings stem from that abuse that we went through. Instead of seeing ourselves as a victim, we see ourselves as a survivor, a soul survivor. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. I would love to have you join our group. So it's just a natural process that happens in these clients' feelings and their thoughts, how their behaviors are. And, you know, a lot of therapies will give you homework or speak in detail. It's just where they combine all these different elements, and they use like a refocus where, like I said, you're pulling from two different things when you're looking back and forth or touching back and forth. Our brain is being stimulated to reprocess as we process because we kind of feel like we're living through it right now. So as we're talking through it, we're reprocessing, we're rewiring our brains. So I just thought it was an interesting thing, that not everybody knows about. And, healing takes effort. Takes effort. We are rewiring our brain. Our brain was pretty screwed up by this abuse that we went through. So, comments are always welcome. Topic requests. I love doing videos for you guys. So comment below if there's anything I can help with, and one-on-ones are available. Enjoy the day.